Facing difficulties, aren't we? Every worker is feeling the effects of this so-called credit crunch, which is nothing to do with us. Yet we're paying the price for something that's nothing to do with us.
Stop cutting and start delivering. I'm sick and tired of being told there's no money. They can give it to the bankers, they can give it to us. Solidarity!
It's a disgrace. Billions have been given to bail out the banks, and at the same time there are cuts in absolutely essential services in the public sector. So all these struggles need to converge in order for ordinary people not to pay for the crisis.
They say there isn't any money. Well, there wasn't any money in 1945, but there was a mass movement, and that mass movement said we're not going back to the 20s and 30s, the poverty and unemployment. And today we have to build a movement to say just that.
It's going to make it a lot easier and a lot cheaper to make people redundant, which we are very concerned about because of the various efficiency savings, as they call them. We've got over 100 people trying to be redeployed at the moment.
They want to take money away from our redundancy to make it cheaper to get rid of people in the end, to replace us with privatised companies.
We've also been on strike recently over low pay, where people aren't even on the London living wage, and we see the two fights as combined.
If they get away with this, they'll go straight onto pensions.
This is just paving the way for, I think, a decimation of public services in general.
No buts! No public sector cuts! No ifs! No buts! No public sector cuts!
We ask everyone who is aware of the stakes not to cross the picket lines, to come and to support us for the strike, because this strike is not only for our jobs. This strike is for the right to education.
The college has announced it wants to make £27 million worth of cuts over the next 2 years. So, over the past few months, 205 jobs have been put at risk. We expect there'll be more to follow. I think that it is really a disgrace to sack 200 people in a college which says that has more than £160 million in cash reserves. The whole process has been introduced without proper consultation. Staff weren't informed or consulted properly about what was going to happen. Alternatives to redundancy weren't looked at. They've leapt in with redundancies as their first resort, and the injustice of the process has caused as much anger as the actual redundancies themselves.
King's is quite a conservative institution, so for us to go on strike on the basis of a very strong vote in the strike ballot is very remarkable. And I think it reflects the fact that management has systematically succeeded in alienating academic staff.
We have been trying to negotiate with the college management over the last year or more. I think one of the difficulties we've had is until very recently, really until we balloted for action, management haven't wanted to engage with what we had to say. And this, I think, academics who are used to being treated like intelligent, intellectual people find very difficult indeed.
They're planning to close the country's oldest engineering department. They've dismantled the Equality and Diversity Department. There are threats to areas like paleography, philosophy, American studies, dentistry. It really covers the entire spectrum of the college. The students have been fantastic. They've got this campaign, We Support Our Teachers campaign. They've been distributing green armbands to students to show their solidarity with their lecturers.
Teachers really need the support from the students to be able to stop the management.
And also the students should just have a say in the way the college is run, I think.
The management sent out an email saying that the teachers are ruining the students' education, even though it's really the management that's ruining our education.
People have felt under constant attack. We've got our interview office network where 10 offices are closing across the country, and that certainly hasn't helped the management side. So, issues like that are really, really important to our members. At the same time that they're cutting the offices, they're saying that they need interviews to take place. So we've got a kind of mixed message from the management, and who knows what that means for public services in the future.
They want to turn 8-hour shifts into 12-hour shifts. And that's affecting security, and we're trying to do something about that, There's a lot of people have to do overtime. We've got roster allowances, yeah, but of course people like to get by without roster allowances.
Because of the cuts and everything over the years, natural wastage, there's a lot of people not being replaced, and it's causing a lot of stress on members that are already here. And if the changes get made to the civil service compensation scheme, and there is compulsory redundancies on the cheap, an already understaffed thing is going to be even more understaffed, causing more stress on staff. A lot of people that work here are really low paid. In the Ministry of Justice, in the league table, we're about 5th from bottom of the lowest paid in the whole civil service. Most of us are on about 15,000 to 20,000.
I'm on 19,600 and something, a year.
We don't earn a lot, and the pension and the civil servants compensation scheme is there as as a sort of your backup really, and when that goes, what's left is going to be very little.
The sheer number of fixed-term contractors that have been in that have even less rights. I'm myself a long-term civil servant at present. I'm actually a fixed-term here myself. When there's a lack of capacity, they'll get an intake of either previously experienced non-civil servants to be civil servants, or a new intake on the contract. First they were 18 months and then they whittled down to 12 months terms. They're meant to make you permanent at the end of them, but that's using the excuse that when the money isn't there anymore, they say, okay, X amount of people on these fixed terms, we don't need to renew them. But they have the flexibility to say, if they do have the need for them, we'll just extend your contract without extending the same kind of permanent rights that every other civil servant gets.
Support the strikers today. Support the PCS union. Bring them a coffee, it's cold.
There's quite a few outside contractors that come within the museum now, and they actually worked alongside us. But I think the contractual side of it is obviously it's a lot of it's privatisation through the back door really, and we're upset about this really.
There was obviously a report in the papers last week about, I think it was Cleveland Police, saying that they were looking at privatising or outsourcing their call centre for dealing with the 999 calls from the public, and I'm worried that the same thing will happen to the Met for our staff, so it does affect us in terms of redundancy.
80,000 people use the Whittington A&E most years. If we lose the A&E, we eventually lose the whole hospital. It's crucial for our area and our community.
This tidal wave of privatisation is actually accelerated under the new Labour government. The whole process is a result of lobbying by big commercial healthcare companies over a period of 30 years. They've lobbied in order to persuade politicians to change and restructure the National Health Service so it could be broken up and so that the commercial healthcare companies could come in and take over the more profitable aspects of it.
To support that the A&E is not closed down. I mean, I actually had to use it with my husband the other night, and I can imagine if we had to gone up to Hampstead, God knows what condition he'd have been in by the time we'd have got there.
How do you feel when the government's saying there's no money for the NHS?
There has to be some priority given to funding for our hospitals because our lives depend on it.
For this doesn't have a mandate. We're dealing with unelected, unaccountable servants to this government. They need to go.
It's actually a process of political corruption as well as this process of privatisation. Many of our politicians, for example Patricia Hewitt, who's a former health minister, have become personally enriched through this process because while they were in office as politicians, they pushed forward the agenda of privatisation wholeheartedly, and then when they came out of office, they took jobs with the very same private healthcare companies whose interests that they had been pushing forward.
I'm totally against all this effort to make universities work as if they were corporations. I think that this is completely incompatible with the idea we have of our job and the idea we have of what higher education should be about.
This has been going on for years now, that more and more universities see themselves as business enterprises in competition with each other, structured like businesses with a managerial hierarchy. The principal, in our case, or the vice-chancellor, sees himself as a CEO, gets paid a CEO-type salary.
What has been happening in this country is an expansion in universities, but on the cheap, of course, without providing the necessary resources. So our workloads are constantly increasing. We have less and less time to do our proper research. We are more and more stressed.
I want to save the education for the future students, because with fewer academics, we're going to have larger lectures and less student contact.
The students are treated like customers as well. Like, I think that's quite wrong in higher education.
It's like a consumer policy rather than just spread of knowledge.
There seems to be this feeling that you can apply management as a set of generalised skills in any situation. And I think a lot of us don't believe that's true. I think when you're applying management skills, you need to understand whatever the area of work is. And some of these people patently don't.
The redundancy shows that the real priorities of this college are not research and education. They are just trying to make money by giving priority to specific sectors which supposedly are attractive for students who can bring cash. for instance, non-European students and so on. So this is their real priority. Their priority is to make a prestige institutions which will provide services, as they say, but not an institution to educate people, not an institution in which there will be, proper scientific work and research.
Poverty line is supposed to be £135 a week. Well, the pensioners don't get anything like £135 a week. I think it's 98. 98 is the basic. So we're below the poverty line, basically.
If you get a small private pension, you're taxed on it.
The pensioners have a particular responsibility for defending the welfare state. Many of us were there in 1945. We may have been young. I myself was 10 years old, but I remember very well the campaign that took place in 1945 when millions of people came back from the front, joining others who had been keeping the home fires burning, and said, no more the 1920s and 30s. We want proper health care. We want proper education. And that started something very, very big. We had the National Health Service, we had nationalisation, and we defended the public services. Take the profit out of the public sector. Stop privatisation, stop propping up the banks, stop paying for war and stop paying for Trident. In that way, we can pay properly for the sort of services that we all need and deserve.
The effects of so-called credit crunch, which is something.
And start delivering. Let's give it. Give it.
Be given to bail out the banks. Absolutely essential. All these to will not crisis.
Well, there wasn't any 1955, but mass movement said we're not going back to the 20s and 30s, the poverty and unemployment, and to that.
privatised.
Also, like the London living site and high.
To get this straight on pensions.
Wait, to Jen.
Announced that it wants to make the next 200 jobs.
I think it's really 100 people and 60
reduced without consultation or consulting about what was going to happen work with the causes redundancy costs.
The management feeded into academic stuff.
We did recently action. Academics to be treated intelligent, intellectual.
Planet Club, the country's oldest park. Like philosophy, studies, history, college. With pain,
from the to astonishing in the way the man an email that
people have felt constant attacks. Our interview office is across the country, and that certainly hasn't helped the management side. So, you know, they say kind of mix is what that means for public
leadership. That's acting security. We've got
years wasted by not being replaced. I think it's going to be more stressful. A lot of people paid in this civil service 15,000 to 25,000.
I'm on 90 something, you know, yeah.
You're not the pension. Doesn't go back really. That goes.
The number of fixed term contractors. At present, I'm actually a fixed term, and there's capacity to take either contracts 18 months. They're meant to make you